Happy New Year to all the common fans out there. We're excited to be back and happy to have you with us. Matt, Jeff, Happy New Year, boys.
Happy New Year,
Happy New
TJ.
Year.
How were the holidays, fellas?
They're
Survived.
great. Yep, we
Yeah,
made it. It
With
was
a
a lot of
lot of help
food.
from Jack Daniels.
that's right. Jack and Johnny Walker and all those guys.
Did you guys
Uh,
party it up on the New Year's Eve?
Absolutely not.
No,
Not really, not really.
we did. Damn it,
Uh,
we did.
I'm glad to hear that. But yeah,
Yeah, it
we
was a good
watched the
time.
we watched the ball drop in New York, but I'm on Pacific time, so that's only
Yeah,
9 p.m. my time. And I wasn't in bed too much longer after that.
I see. Yeah, we were up
Um,
till after midnight. I think Janie had a couple friends stay the night. They were up till like 2 in the morning. It was a late night
Oh, good
at the
Lord.
Langenberg house. Yeah. Oh
um,
yeah.
well, I hope you guys had a wonderful Christmas, a wonderful New Year's. We could probably do a whole separate episode, breaking after the fun Christmas episode, we could probably now break down, some of our activities and our meals and our snacks and our movies and songs and things like that. But we don't have time for that, guys. We've got a very important episode planned. We're barreling into 2024 with a lot of hope for the future. And so we're excited to get to that. Real quick, please make sure to check out our YouTube channel. And hopefully, maybe you're watching on the YouTube channel right now. That's youtube.com/@commonfangbr. And we also love engaging with all the common fans out there on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. So make sure to connect with us on social media. And of course, you can always send us an email at commonfangbr@gmail.com. And of course, make sure to tell some other common fans out there about the podcast. If you're enjoying it, tell others so they can join the fun as well. Now, gentlemen, we're going to take a big swing with today's episode, and it's time. It's time for Husker Nation collectively as a fan base to start moving forward. This is the Belly G option pass of episodes. We're going to throw the deep ball. Mattio's favorite play.
Yes. Yes.
We're going to throw the deep ball. And maybe as a fan base, this is what we need to do. Maybe it's up to us, common fans, to pull this program into the next era of Nebraska football. God knows we've been there the last 7 seasons. God knows we have never left. The program has been in hell. The fan base has been in hell. And Husker Nation has continued to show up. Let's be clear on that. But we didn't come this far just to come this far.
No, we didn't.
It's time to fight our way back into the light, to borrow from Al Pacino in Any Given Sunday. It's time to climb out of hell.
Yes.
Friends, fellow common fans, Husker Nation, we are here to tell you tonight, it's time to believe in Nebraska football again.
Let's
We're clo-
go.
I love it, boys. We're closing the book on the last 7 seasons of losing, of heartbreak, of gut punch losses. We're closing the book on this period of coulda, woulda, shoulda, this period of almost, but not quite, this period of, let's just say it, ineptitude. It's time to be done with it. We're going to speak it into existence if we have to, common fans, starting now. It's time to hope again. It's time to believe again. We're going to stop holding our breath, hoping that bad things won't happen, and we're going to start believing that good things will happen. And this isn't just wishful thinking. We have a whole host of reasons why it's time to believe again, including one very big one who will be on campus this month. We'll get into all of that shortly. But first, and I don't want to take us too far off track, guys, but we're all Star Wars fans. We're all Star Wars junkies, dare I say. And I just keep coming back to the parallels here, and I wanted to run this by you guys a little bit. But think about it, especially we're talking about the Huskers' prized recruit, of course, Dylan Raiola. The father was a warrior during the glory days, helping to uphold the standard of excellence that defined the program for decades. To this day, he remains a connection to to days gone by, the times we thought would never end. Now we've descended into the dark times. Like Obi-Wan says,
The Empire.
before the dark times, before the Empire, to lower lows than any of us ever thought possible. The Empire, aka the college football industrial complex, appears to have a stranglehold on us, keeping us down. But now the sun has come of age and emerged on the scene. The sun, uniquely talented and ready to write his own story, committed to both the importance of his father's legacy and at the same time to charting his own course. From the far corners of the galaxy, he arrives, willing, ready, and able to learn the ways of the Force and become a Jedi like his father, running headlong into the fight to restore Nebraska to its rightful place of prominence. We should point out here that the father never actually turned to the dark side. We are not suggesting that. We should say that. But we don't want to put too much onto an 18-year-old kid. But it's impossible not to feel like we're at the beginning of a new chapter, boys, a fresh start. And the other Star Wars reference I keep thinking about is at the end of Rogue One, when Leia is handed the Death Star plans and she's asked what it is, and she simply responds, hope.
Yes.
That's what we have
hope.
here.
That's what we have here, gentlemen.
We have a small glimmer of hope.
TJ, rebellions are built on hope.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes, they are.
Can I
And
just say that was beautiful? I almost teared up there.
I had goosebumps. I had goosebumps.
Thank you.
I mean, that was beautiful. The only thing I would say is that's a good comparison there. I envision Dylan saying something to like Kirby Smart, like, "You have failed, Your Highness. I'm a Husker with my father before me."
Yes. Yes. Oh my God, that's brilliant. But it is like we have gone from number one, right? We've gone from the New Republic, and now we're the rebels. Now we're the scrappy underdogs, and we're fighting to displace the powers that be in college football. But it's fun. Everybody wants to be part of the Rebel Alliance.
Absolutely.
And so it's January, common fans. It's time to put, college football is just about over. We're recording this the day after some phenomenal playoff games. I hope you guys had a chance to watch those. It's always sad to me, because Nebraska to date in the history of the college football playoff, Nebraska's never playing in the final game. So like the final game, you always watch it, but sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not. It's always sad to me when you get past January 1 and the season, the college football season is for all intents and purposes over. But that doesn't mean it's over for us on the Common Fan Podcast. Boys.
No.
We're going to run headlong into the new year full of faith and hope and optimism. And we're really excited about it. So, all right, I want to pivot to all the reasons to believe, and we need all of Husker Nation to come with us on this. It is time to believe in Nebraska football again. Did you guys have any other comments on that opening salvo first?
Well, with the Star Wars references, I kind of wonder, does that maybe has Nebraska football kind of been like an Obi-Wan, like a hermit in the desert, just kind of sitting and waiting? I kind of thought of that a little bit. Now we've got Raiola, who hopefully will bring balance to the Force and get Nebraska back to the top. But not to get too Star Wars nerdy with everybody, but we know that
I will.
Anakin did bring balance to the Force, but he went to the dark side to do it. So we don't want anybody going to the dark side to bring Nebraska back to the top. But I love the Star Wars references, TJ. Very good.
Well, I do think we've been in the wilderness. We are, in our mind, we're the good guys who have been displaced, and it never should have happened. It never should have been that way. And now we're fighting our way back. Fighting our way back.
The CFIC and Order 66
Yeah.
screwed us. I was thinking too, since we have all these parallels, like in the Star Wars universe, who what roles would we play? TJ, you strike me as like a Han Solo type for some reason.
Yeah.
I don't know why. Owens, do you have any idea of who you'd be compared to? What
Oh
role would you
God.
play as a character in
Oh,
this
I don't
universe you
know.
created?
I think if I were to be able to, classify as a Jedi, I would like to think that I'm Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Okay.
But I don't know. That's pretty thinking
Wow.
pretty highly of myself, I guess.
I
Who
think
doesn't?
I think more or less like you might be one of those guys that Emperor
Don't no
Palpatine just
no don't
slashed
tell
out
me.
and like
I thought you were gonna tell me I was the chubby guy flying the X-wing. His name
Porkins,
Porker.
Porkins, Porkins.
Porkins.
Well, who are
No,
you, Jeff?
I'm probably, let's just go with it since it's the whole small leprechaun guy thing. I'm probably that little thing that sits on Jabba the Hutt's shoulder that whenever he says anything, like,
Oh, that was good,
that's
Jeff.
me.
That was
I'll
good.
own
That
it.
was good.
Thank
Well,
you.
I'll take Han Solo. Geez, I'm touched by that. I'm honored. But
Absolutely.
I think we could
Han
maybe
shot first.
I think what we should do is a whole separate episode where we assign those characters not to ourselves, but to like the current like Nebraska football infrastructure. Like I feel like maybe Rule is Obi-Wan in that scenario,
Yeah.
and Dylan Raiola is Luke, and
Obviously.
maybe Fedoni is Han Solo,
Yeah.
and like
We have some fun with that.
Yeah, and it's too bad Harvey Perlman's not around anymore because he is for sure Palpatine. Like
Sure,
there's
the
no
Emperor.
question about it.
How do you know he's not still pulling the strings from behind the
He
scenes?
might
like in the
be.
sequel
He might
trilogy?
be.
Yeah,
You don't
he might
know.
be.
You don't
Yeah.
know.
Exactly. All right. Well, for just in case there's any non-Star Wars common fans out there, we better not spend too much time on this. And
Apologize for nothing.
we
Get
can
into it.
do a separate Star Wars only episode that people can take or choose to listen to or not. But for real common fans, we are coming into the year with a ton of optimism here. And I think that, I mean, honestly, we joke about winning the offseason and winning the offseason national championship. But guys, I really do think the Dylan Raiola commitment, which happened, what, December 18th or 19th.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it didn't really it came out of nowhere about a week before that.
That's what it's
And
about.
so like after the season's over, we're, okay, you're 1 for Rule, or 5-7. Here's the good, here's the bad, whatever. Nobody was talking about this though. Even past Thanksgiving and into December. And then this came out of nowhere. It really does change the conversation. And real, we've got 4 kind of main reasons for why it's time to believe in Husker football again. And Dylan Raiola is at the top of the list. And I think, we all need to be a little bit cognizant of not putting too much on a 17 or 18-year-old kid or whatever it is. And, we've seen talented players come in before, and we know that, there's 11 guys on the football field on one side at any given time. And so, they're gonna have to surround him with talent and make good decisions and good coaching decisions, all those things. But the day after Raiola committed, Gary Sharp, friend of the program, that morning on his show, he called it a new era of hope. And kind of the thing he focused on that morning was, okay, the Huskers need to, the Huskers have had this before. Adrian Martinez was really promising, and they kind of maybe failed him in a way where they didn't surround him with enough other talented players, and maybe some coaching decisions or stubbornness from the coaching staff didn't help Adrian necessarily. And so Sharp's focus was basically like, here's the ways they need to sort of supplement and support Raiola from a personnel perspective and a coaching perspective and a resources perspective and all of that. And we certainly agree with that, but I think we kind of want to focus on, why this is such a big deal and why so much hope comes with the commitment of just one player. And I think number one for me, guys, is the talent. Okay. And I'm not an expert film watcher. None of us are coaches other, Matteo, I know you've excelled as a flag football coach, and we want to make sure to give you props for that. But
leader of men,
and I think also we have been burned so many times as Husker fans, whether it's with, we think a season's going to go a certain way and it doesn't, or we think a certain player is going to pan out and he doesn't. And so I know for me, even with the Raiola chatter the first time around, a few months ago or however long ago it was kind of like hard to get invested. And is he really as good as everybody says? You just kind of have those natural sort of, it's like a defense mechanism at this point, those natural, second guessing moments, I feel like. But since he committed and since we had Zach Carpenter on the program talking about the guy's potential and how good he is, I don't know about you guys. I found some highlights on YouTube. I
Yeah.
mean, the guy makes it look easy to kind of flick the ball 50 yards down the field. He looks really, really good and really smooth out there.
Yeah, I did the same. I admit I had not watched a second of Dylan Raiola highlights because I just the last I don't know how many years I haven't been the guy to get excited about recruiting. It's kind of, I don't know, maybe it's I'm getting old. It's like, well, let's wait till the guys are wearing the scarlet and cream and they're on the field, on Tom Osborne Field, before I'm gonna start getting.
Right.
But when you get a number one quarterback recruit, naturally I just like, okay, well, let's see what this kid's got. I was blown away. Like, I'm watching and going, yeah, I totally understand why he's the number one quarterback recruit in the country. Like, he's literally, like Zach said in our episode with him, Zach Carpenter, he literally appears to be able to make every single throw you would ask a quarterback to make, like rolling to his left, rolling to his right, throwing from the pocket. Like, it's incredible.
Yep.
And a great deep ball, really good deep ball.
Yeah, and
that's where you guys are different than me. Again, and I'm kind of like you still, though. Owen's like, I don't really watch. I don't know. It's weird to me watching videos of like some high school kid playing football. I don't know why. I'm a 41-year-old man.
well,
it's kind of like it's
most of
odd
us
to
don't
me.
do it. It's okay. Most of us don't do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I hope I'm not in like the like outside that bubble where it's weird, but I just don't do anything like that. So fire away. I mean, I've already been pumped, and I think the first trigger for me that made me realize that this is something that's a lot different was just Nebraska nowadays just doesn't get the national coverage that we used to. And usually it's somebody making fun of us. And like Desmond Howard or some butthead like that talking crap. But like, I mean, big names were talking about us when that started going around. And I just knew that it felt different, that, boy, this is serious stuff if we got these people covering us and talking about how important this would be to our program. That was the first thing I noticed, is just how big other people made this out to be, and not from within the Husker media. This was outside big names. So I thought that was really awesome.
Yeah, and a lot of butthurt Georgia fans too. Like, all of a sudden,
right,
like tweeting about Nebraska. Like,
we didn't want him anyway.
Yeah, right.
Yep.
Yeah, it's like, it was that you mentioned that on Twitter. I think TJ was like, that phase of like, well, we didn't want that guy anyway, and we've been guilty of that too. Certainly over the years. But it's just kind of funny to see, the guys that have literally been at the pinnacle, at the top the last few years in Georgia, their fans getting all upset because Nebraska got a guy from them basically. So that part was pretty fun.
Yeah, it was. And I think that the reason it's such a big deal in my mind too is there aren't very many 5-star recruits every year, right? And so like you can usually say, well, okay, he's a 4-star, he's a high 3-star. So what? There's 1,000 of them. Some of them pan out, some of them don't, whatever. There aren't very many 5-stars every year, and we don't usually get them. Let's be honest. Like, we don't, we get,
sure.
And we usually have top 25 recruiting classes more years than not. And that's pretty impressive considering the product on the field in recent years.
Yeah.
But we just don't get a lot of 5-stars. So not only do we have a 5-star here, but he is considered by many to be the top quarterback recruit in the class, and he plays that position, right? I mean, that's what's the quarterback position is so important, and it always has been. But I think you can argue, we saw it this year, right? When we didn't have quarterbacks who could kind of do what the offensive coordinator wanted, and they had to kind of MacGyver an offense together with 3 different quarterbacks throughout the course of the year. And so it's such a big deal that, we'd be excited if it was a 5-star offensive lineman or a 5-star. Jeff's knocking his cat away again. But it's such a huge deal that the guy plays quarterback, right?
Yeah.
And then what I noticed on the film too, Matty O, to your point, is I don't think he's considered a running quarterback, but he's not a statue back there. I mean, he looks smooth, he can move. And I think that's really exciting too. Like, I don't know that, we're going to ask him to run the option, but he's an athletic kid.
Right. And that's what I think. Can't remember if Zach Carpenter said that on our pod or if it was on Twitter or something too, but or maybe we mentioned how he's been compared to Patrick Mahomes, which I think is, is okay. Let's pump the brakes a little bit. But in terms of style of play,
let's let the kid find his dorm room first.
Right, right. In terms of style of play, I kind of get it. Mahomes isn't a run, but the guy can run if the situation calls for it. Yeah, he's going to run the ball. And I could see Raiola doing that too if needed, but I certainly don't think we need to be calling quarterback draws for the kid.
Yeah.
No.
So go ahead, Jeff. You have something to say?
No, the only thing I was going to say is, like, just from, I know you said there's 11 other players on the field, and that's fine, but just from watching the playoff games yesterday, like with that Penix dude, I don't know much about their wide receiver core and what kind of wide receivers they have, but just having anybody that's even remotely close to that can just throw dimes. And it was just watching that, I'm like, could you imagine if Nebraska had anybody close to that could just put the ball where it needs to be?
Right.
It's a huge game changer, in my opinion. Yeah. I mean,
well, I mean, how many times when we were critical of Satterfield during the course of the year, it was mainly because actually, yes, we even see guys open on some of these plays, but you don't have the personnel to execute these plays right now. So if you have a quarterback who can find those guys and hit them, that changes everything.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, when you go from thinking about if we had even average quarterback play, how many more games did we win? Right. And then you go out and you get the number one quarterback recruit in the country. Like, talk about like figuring out what you need. I mean, although it was painfully obvious what we needed, absolutely needed a quarterback, but to go and get this kid, and I don't care if his dad is a legacy. Like, it's still a big get. Like, and there's probably a bunch of NIL money waiting for him, but he would get that anywhere else too.
Exactly.
Like, so I mean, I just think what'll be interesting, and we'll probably talk about this a lot over the next few months, of how Matt Rule and his staff are addressing specific needs that they noticed that we need to improve upon. So you know what, getting Luke Skywalker to come play quarterback for us is a pretty good way to handle things.
Yeah, it's a good start.
Well, yeah, and I think at this point, I don't know if they're going to go get somebody for depth or what. They've got Harburg and they've got Danny Kalen, who's another really good high school quarterback coming in. You probably want at least one more just for depth purposes, but I think right now, we all have to consider Raiola as your game one starter. I mean, God willing, he stays healthy and everything progresses according to plan. But Zach Carpenter talked to us about how he's been to a few different high schools. He had no trouble picking up the offense at every place he's been. He actually brought plays with him from previous offenses that he's run. I mean, I think the mental and the intellectual side of it is all there as well. And I think if your Rule, you just decide you're going to invest in this guy, right? And we got him for hopefully 4 years. I mean, if all goes well, maybe after 3 years he wants to get drafted or something. But you hope. Look, this is a 3 to 4 year proposition here. Let's be honest, Husker fans. Like, let's not hand him the Heisman yet. Let's not hand us the national championship trophy yet. There's probably going to be some growing pains when you're starting with a true freshman. But I think the ceiling is so high and the potential upside is so high. I think you pour everything you can from January winter workouts through spring ball, through right up to fall camp and right up to that first game in August. You invest in this guy like he's your number one guy. Right.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And and this is completely looking way down the road with red colored lenses.
Beautiful.
But sometimes I think what can happen with a college football program is you get one guy like this, like a Dylan Raiola, and then there can sometimes be a domino effect of I want to go be the next guy. Like, look at. I mean, this year they were fine, but how many years in a row did Ohio State have like a complete stud at quarterback? Like, two of them are starting the NFL right now, Justin Fields and C.J. Stroud. But then there was guys even before that, like Cardell Jones was really good, and I'm forgetting somebody. J.T. Barrett was like a really good college quarterback. Like, they had just these guys lined up year after year. It was like, well, here's the next guy. So really, really hopeful thinking and way down the road, years down the road, but hoping that maybe this turns into like, okay, we have some success with Raiola, win some games, and then somebody says that looks like it's really cool to be the stud quarterback in Nebraska. I think I want to take a shot there too.
Or
Well,
just other positions like receivers. Like,
Yeah,
I want this guy to throw to me.
same
He can-
thing.
Right.
Think about yeah.
Well, that's
So-
that was another reason we had for why Raiola is such a big deal. The door it opens to other top recruits, and I think you're right, Matt. So like, hopefully, like now, like immediately, like whether it's I know we're hosting one transfer portal running back from Oregon and two receivers, one from Texas, and I can't remember where the other one's from. But this week, all those guys will be on campus, transfer portal guys, right now. But all these guys, all these top players, they go to camps together, they're on the circuit together, they get to know each other. So hopefully Raiola's got some relationships. Hopefully we can leverage this with next year's recruiting class, guys who are going to be seniors in the fall, seniors in high school. And hopefully this can open the door to a bunch of top recruits, who want to come play and be a part of this. But I think also you're right, where maybe some top quarterbacks who maybe we're looking elsewhere might be thinking twice and saying, hey, wait, what's going on in Nebraska? Maybe I should give them a look. And then so that point is spot on, both of you. Was that a cat, Jeff?
No, that was a cough. Sorry, I tried.
Okay, no problem, no problem. And then the last one, just to put a bow on the Raiola thing, is kind of summed up by what we're talking about right now, but it's the belief it infuses into the program and into the fan base. And like, I think we all again, this is not something I think the recruiting sites and others pay really close attention to, who's following who on Twitter and all that sort of thing. But I think we even noticed when the smoke started to appear that, wait, this Raiola thing might be real, in that, that week or so that was going on in December, tons of current players, doing the eyeball emojis and the cryptic tweets and all that sort of thing. Tons of sort of recruits who were committed to the class doing that. Like, other guys know this is a dude.
Yeah.
And other guys know like this is a big deal. And it's like, it contributes to that feeling that we're building something where there's something exciting going on here and we want to be a part of it. Right.
Yeah.
And we have something to believe in.
Yeah. Well, and maybe little bro ends up coming here too. I've been hearing and seeing things about Dylan's little brother.
He's a lefty QB, Dayton Raiola.
Yeah.
And I think he's like maybe 3 years younger, he's not
freshman or sophomore in high school, I think.
Yeah. So let's just get that kid here.
Yeah.
And let's give Dylan 1 year to kind of learn the ropes. And then we're probably looking at, I don't know, 6 to 8 consecutive national championships would be my guess.
Yeah. Sounds about right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Good. Perfect.
Perfect. Yep.
All right. Well, I'm sure that kind of puts a bow on the Raiola discussion, but I mean, that again, we want to be mindful of not putting too much on a kid who is going to be on campus starting in January, which is more and more common these days. But realistically, he's going to be going through spring ball when he should be going to prom, right? So let's just pump the brakes a little bit. Let the kid find his way around campus, find his dorm room.
We compared him to Luke Skywalker.
Right.
No pressure, but you are the chosen one.
But he's also the savior of the program.
He's gonna blow up the Death Star in season 1.
Yeah, that's right. So no big deal. I don't know what that means. Maybe that means going to USC and winning. Maybe it means, I don't know who it means.
I mean, for eight wins, and we'll consider it blowing up the Death Star.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. I think a bowl game, and we'll consider it.
That's probably more appropriate.
Yeah. Not to worry, Common fans, because we have several more reasons why it's time to believe in Husker football again, and why we're closing the book on 7 years of ineptitude. So the number 2 one that I had on the list, guys, is homegrown Huskers.
Yes.
And so this isn't in and of itself, necessarily always a telltale sign, but think about it, guys. The best Nebraska teams historically, like TO's best teams, even Devaney's best teams, they had key contributors, not just key contributors, like all conference, all American types from the state. We have 3 Heisman Trophy winners. 2 of them are from Omaha.
Yep.
How incredible is that? That's extraordinary. And And so the last two recruiting classes, Matt Rule's first two recruiting classes as head coach, are full of potential impact guys from the state. So I went back and took a little bit of a look. I did a little bit of a deeper dive than I've done before. So just in this class, the recruiting class that just signed, and a lot of these guys will be on campus in January. The rest of them will arrive in the spring and summer. You've got 8 Nebraska kids in the class. And that's including some dudes that other people wanted, right? So Carter Nelson, Geoff, your Domers. Again, we're still not sure if you had a part of that or not, but Notre Dame tried to
Complete
rest
ignorance.
Notre Dame tried to wrest him away.
I was in Arizona. Arizona.
Yeah, you failed, Jeff. You failed.
You failed. He stayed home. Danny Kalen, right? Elite 11 quarterback. I don't know if you noticed, guys, Missouri went ahead and beat Ohio State in their bowl game.
Yeah.
Missouri wanted Danny Kalen. He was committed to Missouri. Caleb Benning had a great offer list. He's been, I feel like he's not really a sleeper, but some of these other guys get so much hype. But I've heard Benning might be one of the best all-around athletes and all-around players in the class, which is super exciting. And then a couple of those Bellevue West wide receivers, Davon Hall and Isaiah McMorris. I think those are both 4-star guys. These are all in-state, in-state guys. And then even looking at last year's class, Matt Rule's first class, Malachi Coleman, Jalen Lloyd, both of those guys are, I think they're going to be like now that they have somebody who can throw to them, they're going to be impact players, impact wide receivers who can make a difference, take the top off of defense and go out and get you some points. I mean, I love the idea too of, Jalen Lloyd. I don't think he had an offer before Nebraska came along. And that was one where Rule said, this guy's got speed. He's got enough to work with. Let's bring him on campus. I think he's he's probably the most exciting receiver. He came out of nowhere this year and had some massive. Lloyd had the big touchdown against Iowa.
Yeah,
did he have the one against Wisconsin as well?
I remember.
Was that him against Wisconsin as well? I think
that
was Jim. Or was that?
I can't remember.
I think that second touchdown where he just ran past everybody. I think that
it
was Jalen Lloyd.
He's had 3. I think he had 3 on the year.
Yeah. So he's had these massive plays where he either runs past everybody, takes the top off the defense, or that one against Wisconsin, like he caught the ball, but he wasn't by everybody yet. And then he just kind of ran past them once he had the ball,
Yeah.
And so, but that's really promising, both like what it says about, Rules evaluation and the staff's evaluation. But again, also because it's another Nebraska guy. And then of course, a bunch of offensive and defensive linemen, which has always been our bread and butter kind of with homegrown kids, but it's kind of fascinating to see now. Obviously Johnny Rogers is from Nebraska, Eric Crouch is from Nebraska, but I feel like, our model was the Wisconsin model before the Wisconsin model, right? Which was to load up on big dudes from the state, load up on big offensive linemen. Of course, you always, it's easier to keep any of the good skill guys home as well. Amon Green is an Omaha guy. Cluster Johnson, I think, is an Omaha guy. So there's others, of course, that I'm probably not thinking of here. But we would often have to go get skill guys from out of state.
Yeah.
And it's just really encouraging the level of talent that we've seen that's right here in Nebraska. And then now in this day and age of NIL, of everybody can review your huddle tape with a click of a button. There's no diamonds in the rough anymore. Nick Saban can find anybody anywhere. Kirby Smart can find anybody anywhere. So it's harder than ever to keep these guys home. And the Rule staff has really prioritized that. They understand what it means to the fan base. I think you see it really means something more to the players as well. And they kept a bunch of these dudes home this year and last year.
Yeah. And I think that's been mentioned and discussed over the last, 10, 12 years or so. And, coaches and coaching staff saying they're going to prioritize that, protecting the borders. But we've still let too many guys get away. I mean, just look at those dirty Golden Domers with that Watts kid. He's an Omaha kid. And he was like, didn't he win the Nagurski or something? He was like defensive player of the year.
Yeah.
And he's from Omaha, Nebraska.
Did you guys happen to catch how Notre Dame laid a beat down in their bowl game too? I mean, good Lordy. Did you guys watch that game?
No.
You didn't watch that game?
Nobody cares, Jeff.
Whatever. Okay.
I didn't know that game was on TV.
Oh, wow.
If it was it on Peacock? Was it on the cock?
It was the Tony the Tiger Sun Bowl, if you must
Uh,
know. Tony the
well,
Tiger Sun Bowl.
the Sun Bowl against Oregon State.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Great. Uh, no, and I just saw Watson's coming back for another year at Notre Dame. So congratulations to you, Jeff.
Thank you.
But
Riley Leonard coming in. We've got Angeli at backup. Things are looking up for the Irish too. So
legitimately,
Go ahead,
nobody cares, Jeff.
Nobody cares.
But no, but to that point though, Matt, too, I mean, how many times have we seen these kids get away and then go star at other programs, right?
Yeah.
And you're not going to get every one of them. It's harder than ever, like we just kind of outlined. But I do think there were times when there were kids of equal or even a little bit more talent, and for whatever reason, past coaching staffs maybe didn't prioritize them, or thought, well, kind of took them for granted. They'll assumed they would stay home, and then they didn't, and they went after a kid of about the same talent from a different state who didn't pan out or ended up transferring out because he was homesick or whatever. And so, like, I think keeping those kids home is huge. It's cliche. I think it means more to these guys,
Yeah.
when they grew up with it and they know about it. And then also, like, the other piece of that is how many times has Iowa or somebody else found a diamond in the rough that maybe wasn't a big recruit? That guy from, it's about 2015, 2016, the defensive lineman, it's escaping me, but he was throwing the bones
Oh,
against
that kid
Nebraska.
from, was he Creighton Prep kid or something? Ott?
Yeah.
I think it was.
Well, that was it. That was one, and then there was another one I'm thinking of that was even more of under the radar.
I know. I can see him throwing the bones, and
I think he went on to have to play in the NFL.
I think you're right.
The name's escaping me, but so
Well,
again,
it turns out he's not such a big deal after all, huh?
can't even remember his name.
Can't remember the guy's name.
but like, again, that's to the Jalen Lloyd example of maybe an under the radar guy. The staff saw something in him and invested in him.
Yeah,
so,
the talent evaluation thing is a big deal, and we've been lacking in that a little bit for a while. So hopefully we've got some good evaluators now.
Yeah, and the other piece to the homegrown Huskers conversation is legacy Huskers, and we're not the first to make this point. I think it's the Husk guys Twitter account and probably some others, but it's kind of funny. You see guys on Twitter saying, so when are the players of the national championship teams going to have children that are old enough to play for the Huskers? And now we're finally seeing it, right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Dylan Raiola is a legacy. Caleb Benning's dad is a national championship. Everybody knows Damon Benning, the national championship winning running back. Keelan Smith in this recruiting class, son of Neil Smith. He's not an in-state guy, but he's from, the 500-mile radius. He's from the Kansas City area. Maverick Noonan was in last year's class. He's an edge rusher. I think they're super excited about him. I think he was on track to see the field and then dealt with an injury before the season started, if I remember correctly. But Danny Noonan, who's like an early 90s Husker, is his dad. Sam Sledge, an offensive lineman, who I think was in last year's recruiting class. His dad was a letter winner in the 80s. So I don't know if it means anything or not, but it's another thing that Husker fans, I feel like have a unique affinity for, like, when anytime a former player's son comes into the program, it's like, they're part of the family, right?
Right. And how we're dads. You know how dads are. They probably got their Husker memorabilia in the house, and then when the kids get old enough, they want to know, want to maybe see some of dad's old film or old games or something like that. So these legacy kids, they grow up eating, sleeping, and breathing Husker football. At least I'd like to think most of them do. So it just it means a lot for the guys, the in-state guys. It means a lot for the guys whose dads played there. So
exactly.
I'll take as many of those legacy guys as we can get.
Well, I think it absolutely was a factor in Raiola's decision. And he talked about, maybe it was different for him. Who knows, if the household, planned every Saturday around watching the Huskers or not, because, Dominic played in the NFL for so long, and the kid lived in Arizona and other places. So who knows but I think he always, at the very least, he grew up coming to games. He grew up coming back to Lincoln on a regular basis. Obviously, dad is revered here, and the place had a special place in his heart. And I think even if he had gone to Georgia or he had gone to Ohio State, I think he always would have felt fondly about Nebraska. So certainly it doesn't hurt when these guys who were such good players Now their offspring is getting to the age where they can play. And by the way, they happen to be pretty dang good too.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I mean, let's be real. We probably don't get Dylan if
No,
Dom didn't play here and Uncle Donnie's not the O-line coach.
probably
We're
not.
not even, he's not even sniffing Lincoln, Nebraska.
No, without a
Yeah, I
doubt.
think that's a good way to put it. Is it wasn't the reason he chose Nebraska, but it doesn't
No,
happen
but
without
yeah,
that factor.
it
Right.
helps.
Mhm.
Right. I think that's right. So look, just to put a bow on reason number 2 here, which is homegrown Huskers. I think there's a ton of talent in the state. We've kept most of it home the last 2 recruiting classes. These guys are less likely to transfer. I feel like it, hopefully it means a lot to everybody on the roster, but it especially means something to these homegrown players. So you talk about building a foundation. We've talked about trying to build something sustainable over the course of, all fall. This is a huge piece of that. So yet again, another reason to believe, Husker fans. So number 3 on our list here probably won't surprise too many people, but is simply Matt Rule, the head man. If you've listened to the podcast, we are believers in Coach Rule. We're drinking the Rule-Aid. And look, I think now we've got a body of work out there. We've got 12 games to evaluate. There were probably some mistakes made, certain decisions made, things that people could nitpick at. That's fine. When you accept the head job and you take the big paycheck, or you're on the staff or you're on the team, it comes with big time college football. Guys are going to get criticized. But I think when we look at some big picture factors, we are as strong of believers in Coach Rule as we've ever been. And this is both due to his history before Nebraska and what we witnessed in year 1. So we dug into the history a little bit, guys. I'll tick through this really quick. 4 years at Temple. His first year, he went 2-10. Second year, he went 6-6. Third year, he went 10-4. Fourth year, he went 10-3. Then in 3 years at Baylor, his first year, he went 1-11. Next year, he went 7-6. Third year, he went 11-3. And so, he's got a proven process. I think it's totally fair to expect a jump in year 2. I think both of those situations that he inherited at Temple and Baylor were much bigger dumpster fires than what he inherited at Nebraska. Not that, he had a lot to fix at Nebraska, but those were both like really down in the dump situations. And then year 1 was his best year 1 yet.
Yeah.
So, I mean, all those factors combined, based on his history, I think it's fair to expect a jump in year 2.
That's kind of what I alluded to in previous podcasts, was just based on a record alone. I really wasn't that upset with the way things ended. Yeah, I wish we would have made a bowl game. We just needed one more game, but just from a numbers standpoint and arithmetic, we were ahead of schedule, just based on those stats alone. So that kind of gave me some confidence. The other thing I think that nobody ever talks about, and it's because it's NFL, there's those people I remember when he got hired that will say, well, he got fired from Carolina, so he must not be that great. But has anybody paid attention to what's going on with the Carolina Panthers right now?
Yeah.
I mean, they are
Yes.
awful. And
Matt,
it's
yeah.
nothing to do with Matt Rule. Their
No, Matt-
owner is a freaking nut job.
Yeah, Matt
Their
Rule
owner
is
just-
not the
their owner-
problem.
The owner,
Yes.
Did you guys see the clip? He threw a drink on a
He
fan.
threw a
Did you guys
drink
see
on
that?
a Jaguars
Yeah.
fan. Like, the dude is an unhinged nut job. He fired Frank Reich, and he didn't even remember how to pronounce his name. He called him Frank Reich at a press conference about it. And then they asked him, they're like, are you patient? He's like, yes, I'm a patient man. I'm very patient, but I'm also not patient. And so I personally, there was no way Matt Rule was going to win there with that guy behind the scenes running things anyways. I don't think Matt Rule had a shot there. So that gave me even more, after seeing some of this stuff unfold, more confidence in the fact that I think we have a baller for a head coach, no doubt.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I also think, like, if the guy's done it at the college level, I put much more stock and weight on that than, Saban didn't do well in the NFL. Like, some
Exactly.
guys are just built
Yep.
more for the college game.
For
I
sure.
think when you look at Rule's enthusiasm for his players, how much he wants to help them grow into becoming young men and build something, sustainable at Nebraska, I think he's just geared better for the college game.
Yeah,
100%.
I mean, he's the son of a preacher, right? He's a motivator.
Yep.
And you hear it enough when those types of guys in the NFL don't always work out, because
dealing
you've
with
got guys making
grown men.
million grown men making millions of dollars,
Right.
and maybe don't want to sit there and hear the rah-rah speech.
Yep.
As good as Matt Rule is at giving those speeches, there are just D-bags in the locker room in the NFL that are going to sit there and be like, I don't need to hear this. I'm going to go out and
Right.
get in my Ferrari and drive home now.
His skill set is more geared towards just the molding of a younger mind, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yep.
And especially what he did at two programs that, TJ, you said they were much bigger dumpster fires. I mean, he's Temple.
If you can believe it.
Historically, historically, Temple has been god awful.
Yeah.
I remember them. It always seemed like Penn State scheduled Temple early in the season as just basically like a warm up game before they started the Big Ten schedule. And Baylor, they were coming off practically the death penalty with the whole Art Briles scandal.
Yep.
So, and I can't remember, he had a very, very small amount of scholarship players even left by the time he got there.
I'm going to plead ignorance. Where the hell is Temple at? I always do this.
Isn't it in Philly?
It's in Pennsylvania somewhere. Yeah,
it is.
I thought it was in Philly. I remember Temple more.
There's this really cool thing called Google.
My phone is out of reach. I can't reach it over here. I'm not going to reach for that thing.
I'll talk to you about it after the episode.
Okay, thank you.
I always thought, whenever I think of Temple, I always think it wasn't that the basketball coach John Chaney, wasn't that Temple? Remember they had like the bags under his eyes. Always looked like the tie loosened down a little bit.
Yes, it's in Philly, Geoff. That took me 2.5 seconds.
I'm looking up John Chaney right now as I just want to see this guy.
Oh yeah,
that was him.
He was a fiery old school basketball coach.
Loved him. Yeah, he was awesome.
Oh, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah,
good pull.
You got a vest and a tie on there. Yeah, that's him. All right.
So, all due respect to John Chaney, moving away from.
You alive still?
I don't think Coach Chaney's still alive.
R.I.P.
But
he looked like he was going to stroke out on the sideline occasionally, as worked up as he would get.
I must admit, I didn't see the R.I.P. John Chaney happening in this episode, but we're here to cover all the important stories for the common fans. So I mean, and the other piece with Rule is, so he's got the track record, like he seems to know how to do this, right? And side note, I think he's committed. I think he'll be at Nebraska longer than he was at those places. Like, I think he's decided this is the place he wants to stay and try and really win something. So that's neither here nor there. We hope that's true. But the other thing is what we witnessed this year, right? And, Tom Chattel on this program talked about how he's a builder, right? Gary Sharp on this program said he doesn't stand pat, right? So, he's going to keep working to fix things until they're fixed. And I think we talked about this a little bit before, but I think the biggest thing to me is, and I actually, I admire it about him. We've had previous coaches who maybe have some stubbornness or even some hubris, and they're unwilling to change the way that they do certain things. And I think what we see from Rule, I mean, he's comfortable in his own skin, but he's also, and he's open-minded enough, that he can acknowledge when things need to change. And I appreciate, he'll stand up for his assistant coaches. He'll stand up for certain players. He said, for instance, the quarterback situation, he said he wants these guys to stay, Harburg and why am I blanking on and Purdy. And I think he, even stood up for Jeff Sims and said maybe they didn't do enough to support him. Like, he'll take the bullet for his players and for his coaches. He stood up for Satterfield. But watch his actions, right? Immediately in the offseason, we're talking to literally every transfer portal quarterback available. We're still waiting on it. Hopefully, they're taking the QB responsibilities away from Satterfield so he can just focus on being the offensive coordinator. He's seen in previous stops, Satterfield has seen better success when he's the offensive coordinator and not the quarterback's coach. So we'll see. But I think when you watch Coach Rule's actions, He doesn't stand pat. He's willing to say, okay, this, and this need to be better. How do we go about doing that? And that sounds like a simple thing, but for all kinds of reasons, guys get to this level and they've been really, really successful to get to that point. And so they're unwilling to change the scheme. They're unwilling to change personnel, whatever it is. They get stubborn, they get arrogant, all of the above. How many times did we see Pelini say, and we love Bo on this program, but the scheme works. We just didn't execute. Well, then if you didn't execute, then it didn't work, And so
Right.
the freaking rule staff was learning the option on the fly to try to come up with something that could work for Heinrich Harburg. I mean, I feel like they're open-minded enough to say, this isn't working. What do we need to do to make it work?
Yeah. I mean, and I'm sure you and many Husker fans appreciated that it didn't seem like year one was a throwaway year to them. Like it was like, let's adapt and figure out something that might work, and let's try to get 6 wins and get to a bowl game. It wasn't like, no, we're going to run our system. And although I still kind of feel like there was a little bit of that, just seeing them, trot some of those guys out there and try to throw some of the throws that they're trying to get them to make. And
it was just Satterfield showing off his big brain.
Yeah, that's all it was.
And so I mean, I respect that and appreciate it, that you're not just going to sit back and say, no, this is the way we're going to do it. You're going to look for things, you're going to adapt. You're going to look for things that might work to get the job done. Belly G option pass included, baby.
The Belly G option pass is
I'm telling you, they listened to the podcast, Matt, and that's where they got the idea. It happened right after you brought it up on an episode. I'm still fighting my cat here. It's driving me nuts. Driving me nuts.
Well, and let's remember, I think it was T.O. probably listening to the podcast.
Yes,
it was.
Yeah.
It was Dr. Tom.
Yeah, because he recommended it to the staff. So Satterfield and Rule, obviously they're probably listening to the podcast as well, but we're pretty sure T.O. is listening. So
yeah, Dr. Tom Osborne.
Happy to help, guys, anytime. Happy to help anytime. Okay, so big believers in Matt Rule. Oh, the other point I wanted to make on that is just, we're in our 4th head coach in 10 years, so we're a little bit tired of it and a little bit impatient. But I think everyone kind of knows and expects year one is always a little bit rough. You're always going to give grace to a first-year head coach. It very rarely just goes smoothly, and especially when you take over a program that had, coming into the year, 6 consecutive losing seasons. Obviously, there was a lot that needed to be fixed there. On top of all the usual year one issues, he wants to get his own systems in place, his own schemes on offense, his defense, his own assistants, his own players, all that stuff. He's inheriting a broken program, guys. Like we talked about this before too. Husker fans don't really want to admit it, but this is as low as we've been since the 1950s. And so, still could have been to a bowl game, as fans, I think we can hold them accountable and say they should have been to a bowl game. Absolutely. That you had to find a way to win one of those last 4 games, but man, they fought. Clearly these players are bought into Matt Rule. You haven't seen very many enter the transfer portal. There's a lot to be hopeful about. And so I think he went a long way to set the foundation in year one.
Absolutely.
100%. Again, ahead of schedule, in my opinion.
Yep. Absolutely. All right, moving on. There's lots of reasons to be optimistic. We're capping it at 4 for this episode. So for the 4th and final reason, probably won't surprise anyone, but we're going with the defense. Now, in 2023, I don't know if you guys remember this, we had one of the worst offenses in the entire galaxy.
Yes.
And so even with that, the defense pretty much gave us a chance to win every game except pretty much the Michigan game, which, by the way, they're going to play in the national championship game I think it's a week from today. Is it a week from today?
Yes.
What's today? It's Tuesday. It's Monday, right?
No.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So a week from yesterday. Which, by the way, can we like have Congress do something that actually matters and force the national championship college football game to not be on a Monday freaking night?
Thank you. Good God, man. I've been saying this for years. It's same thing with the Super Bowl on a Sunday, but the Monday night national title game drives me freaking crazy. They play every other college game on a Saturday.
I
Yeah.
Why are we doing
completely
this?
agree. I
Makes no
completely
sense.
agree. It's terrible. I know they don't
We're
want
gonna
to compete
start
with the
late.
NFL, but it's terrible. Like, and it's also like if you're, I don't know, like I guess we always have it on anyway, but I'm usually like, I feel like I'd be so much more invested in it for whatever reason if it was on a Saturday.
Mhm.
Like a Saturday, it should be on a Saturday afternoon or a Saturday night.
Yep.
Um, but I completely agree with that,
Yeah.
Matty.
Well, even
Being
with
on a
the
Monday makes no sense. I kind of wonder, like, there's so much like magic with the New Year's Day bowl games. I kind of wonder if it wouldn't feel like that anyway, but it would feel a lot better if it was on a Saturday.
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. At least like
Without
Jeff, you
doubt.
mentioned the Super Bowl being on a Sunday. The NFL always plays on Sunday.
Yeah.
And you, at least it being on a Sunday, you have some time to like prep for the game, like to, get some, get some good snacks together, get
Yeah,
some
right.
little
Most people are
smokies
working
going
on a
in the
Monday.
crock pot or something.
Yep.
Yeah.
On a Monday night, you come home from work, you gotta, get the kids, with their dinner, whatever.
You got
And then,
school.
and then they got school and then the game doesn't usually kick off till like between 7:30 and
Late.
8 p.m.
Yep.
Central Time. Works for you West Coasters out there, TJ. But when it's, I want my oldest would love to stay up and watch the game, and I'm like, dude, it's gonna get over like 10:30. That's way past your bedtime.
Yeah.
Um,
I
I'd
struggled.
love to see it change. I'd love to see him change that. I don't think it'll happen, but
I
No,
struggled with
that's
just the CFP games last night, like having them back to back like that. Like, spread that out a little bit, man. Start the second game a little bit earlier, like 6 o'clock or something. That we sound like really old men right now, is what we're
yeah,
doing.
I'm
We're
sorry
dating
that
yeah,
ourselves. Sorry, we're getting off track here,
no, but
common
I think
fans.
that was I kind of don't agree with that one, Jeff. Like I loved having
What?
him on back to back. It just put it
Excuse
in my
me?
veins.
Okay.
It was a terrible point, is what I said. Um, no, just kidding. But I mean, I think you guys are spot on about the Monday night game. Like, or like also Matt, to your point about, you know, barely throwing some food together. If it was on a weekend, you might actually like get some people together. Like, hey, you
Yeah.
guys want to come over and watch the national championship game? And like, if it's not a team or a conference you care about, you still kind of casually watch and make it a social thing, right?
Yep.
Whereas if on a Monday night you're barely getting dinner together and trying to get
Mhm.
kids to bed and all that stuff. So
Like when Notre Dame played in the national title game in
yeah, Jeff,
2012, like
we're gonna go
I had
back
to take the
to
day off of after the day of work off after. It was just a
how'd that
whole
go for
thing.
them? How'd
Yeah,
that go for them? I think
yeah, I'll just put it to you this way. Manti Te'o was not focused on that game for
his
whatever.
yeah, I'm
girlfriend
sure.
died.
He had some other
Yeah,
things going on at the time, guys.
he
So
had a lot
just
going
cut him
on.
some
Poor
slack.
guy,
He had a lot
poor
going
guy
on.
lost his girlfriend.
Okay, back to the defense. Back to the Nebraska defense. Um,
Black
but I
shirts.
mean,
Woo!
and we said it throughout the year, but like that D did keep us in every game we were in. And no, we didn't, we played some pretty poor offenses that rivaled ours for ineptitude. Um, but like a good whereas like a good offense is no guarantee of anything because if your defense is porous, that will catch up to you eventually. A good defense can take you a long way. Iowa being exhibit A on that. So like I feel like we've got that piece of the foundation firmly in place already after
Yeah.
year one. And then the exciting part for me guys is we got almost the entire D coming back. So you
Yeah.
got
Yeah.
you got so many I was looking at the scholarship distribution chart today, but like geez, Nash Hutmacher, the polar bear, Ty Robinson, John Bullock, Isaac Gifford, Tommy Hill. I don't think that's even all of them. And then you have like a ton of promise among the young guys, Cam Lenhart, Prince Will, Uman Mielen, my favorite word, Mattio's favorite word to
Woo.
say,
Yes.
Riley Van Poppel, the guy from, was it Northern Iowa or wherever it was? We always forget his name. He had a bunch of sacks. Number 90,
Oh,
um,
James Williams.
James Williams. Sorry, James.
And we're
Um,
Jamari Butler,
and
president
Jamari Butler.
president of the fan club right here.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, there's a ton of. I feel like there's a ton of guys who saw time this year. We're not even saying everybody. And so that foundation is in place. Tony White is back, defensive coordinator. That's huge. Brace yourself, Husker fans.
100%.
Tony White is going to get a head coaching job. It
Yeah.
could come as soon as 2025, but it's huge for this program that will have him for a second year. And hats off, props to Coach Rule and Trev Alberts for paying the man. He's now the highest paid assistant. He's making $1.6 million. He's going to earn every penny of it. And hope to God, hey, maybe they double his pay again next year and he wants to come back one more time or something. But it's huge that he's coming back and coordinating the defense. I feel like there's always such a leap that, you know, you can hope to expect from the offense and the special teams, the program as a whole in year 2. So if the defense can even take a little bit of a leap, I mean, they were already so good. They can stay as they were or even take a little bit of a leap. Man, guys, that's going to be really exciting going into next year.
Absolutely. 100%.
All right. Any other thoughts on the defense?
I got nothing, Tej.
No, I think they're going to be damn good. And we've talked about this before too, but you mentioned a few guys. Well, there's a couple of guys on there that didn't have to come back. But you know, we talk about who's buying in when you have 6th-year guys coming back. When, you know, I don't know, Gifford maybe could make it in the NFL. I don't know if he's getting drafted. But Ty Robinson would have. I mean, he probably would have gotten drafted. But when they're willing to say, you know what, I'm going to come back one more year, put in all the work again, and you know, maybe this is like the other side of the NIL. Like, yeah, it works to bring guys in here, but also maybe it works to keep guys around longer that would have gone pro. But you know, I love what we've got coming back, and I'm excited to see, you know, what newer, younger guys maybe that played a little bit this year that we got to see get some more time, or some brand new guys get in there and see what they could do on D2. Because if there's one thing we learned in year 1 is they're going to play a lot of guys on that defense, which I love. Because you know, the defense almost never seemed gassed as long as they were on the field, as much as we sub guys in and out. I just love it. I love when you've got, you know, maybe 30 guys that are getting playing time on your defense. That's unbelievable.
Fresh all the time, which is great. I just hope maybe we can have like a Legion of Boom situation on our hands here. Could you imagine that? Just all stars all over the place, just knocking people the hell out. I know that's bad to do in college football now, like laying people out, but I love a good, rough, aggressive hit still to this day. Sorry if that offends any of you.
Jeff, we're not offended.
Okay, good.
No, that's a great point. And that's what you mean. That's a good point too. Like, I'm really excited. Who redshirted that's going to, you know, come on strong this year, or who of these, you know, we saw him play true freshmen last year, what true freshmen this year are going to get on the field. I mean, it's just really exciting to think about. So last thought, so that'll wrap up the defense conversation. So just to kind of put a bow on this whole episode, guys, another way I kind of think about this, like, I truly believe. So you think about the history of Nebraska football, and it's like multiple story arcs almost, right? Or multiple chapters of a book, maybe we'll say, right? So, you know, I think we had some good years and decades before the 50s. Nobody really knows that history, but we were god awful in the 50s and early 60s, and Bob Devaney shows up, right? So the one chapter of the book is sort of the Bob Devaney era, and he got us to respectability. And then he got us to excellence, right? And we won back-to-back national championships before he retired. The next chapter in the book is TO, right? And the TO is probably at least 2 chapters, right?
Yeah.
But, you know, Husker fans love to forget about this part. But first, you know, maybe there's more than 2 chapters, but he was always so good. He was always winning at least 9 games, and that's when they only played 11. He, you know, competing for the conference right away. But first it was he couldn't beat Oklahoma. Right. Then it was he couldn't win the big one, you know, and then, you know, so then he finally figured out how to beat Oklahoma. Then he started winning the big one. Then he finished with the flourish, winning, you know, 3 national championships in 4 years. Then, you know, the next part of the story, as we've argued, I will argue this till I'm blue in the face. Everybody likes to say that Nebraska football has been down since Tom Osborne left. That's not true. The Solich era was excellent. It was good to great, we'll say, depending on the year. You know, Callahan was a bit of a misstep, but his one good year, he did play for a conference championship.
Yeah.
And then Pelini came back in and really stabilized the program. That was not that long ago, and at least got us back to, you know, 9 wins a year. Not as good as we had been, but we're in the top 25. Pelini played for 3 conference championships. How much would you guys love to be playing on conference championship weekends, right? Like, how much would Husker fans love that? right now,
Yeah.
right? And so that kind of, I think that, the chapter after Osborne is probably like Solich, to Pelini, and kind of all the drama that happened there. But by and large, those were mostly winning seasons, guys, right? There's only, let's see, Solich took over in 98. Um, and so we only had losing seasons in Solis never had a losing season.
No.
Callahan had one, and Pelini never had one. So from 98 to 2014, or no, Callahan had two. From 98 to 2014, we have two losing seasons, right? Still pretty good, right? So the dramatic fall off started with Riley, and for reasons that I will continue never to understand, sort of continued with Frost. And we're not going to get into that, but that's the most recent chapter of the book. And I guess we can include Rule year one into I don't want to include Rule into that, but basically like that period of 2017, starting with Riley until through 2023 is the dark times, right? We're back to the 1950s.
Right.
We are, the teams we used to beat up on love making fun of us right now. We're down in the dumps, but Husker fans have never waned. We've never wavered. We keep showing up. And I'm telling you guys, like, I think this is like, I see this being a theme for us from January through August, like all through the off season. I believe in my heart, like we're closing that terrible chapter, and it's time to believe in Husker football again. It's time to hope again. We just laid out a bunch of reasons for the common fans to believe and hope again. But I also, like, this is not just like fluff. I believe the pieces are in place. And look, I'm not saying they're going to win. I'm not saying they're going to win the Natty this year.
Yeah, you are.
Like Rule is most comparable to the Devaney era, right? And
Yeah.
I think Chattel maybe made that point. So
Yeah.
he's built. So step one is getting back to respectability, 6 to 8 wins in year two, hopefully. And then you go from there. But I honestly, like, guys, we talked about at the end of the year, it was so exhausting to watch Husker games. We had 4 straight losses. By the Iowa recap, it was so depressing to do one more recap podcast of a depressing loss.
Yep.
I'm excited for it to be fun again. I'm excited for some of those games we're not supposed to win to go our way again. And that is going to happen, Husker fans. It's going to happen as soon as 2024. And guess what year it is? It's 2024.
Woo!
So the time is now.
Preach.
Time is now. And there it is. I'm ready to run out of the tunnel. I love it.
Beautiful.
Absolutely love it. So there it is. There it is, common fans. We hope you'll go on this journey with us. But we're drinking all the Roulade in 2024. But again, it's not, I think for the first time in a long time, we have a lot of reasons to actually believe it'll come true.
Yeah. And I'm not just drinking the Roulade. I am getting hammered shit faced on Roulade.
So much.
You're snorting the Roulade packet.
I'm gonna be face down on the floor because of too much Roulade.
You're getting your stomach pumped.
Yes,
because of too much Roulade.
And they'll roll me. The EMTs roll me over, and all I can say is "Go Big Red."
GBR.
GBR for life. GBR for life.
I can see Devaney. He looks glorious.
He looks glorious.
Okay. That was a lot of Roulade. Let's wrap it up real quick with something fun. You guys have any New Year's resolutions or anything you're focused on this year?
I mean, I could have been responsible and done something like, maybe I should try and work out a little bit more. Maybe I should try spending more time with my family. But of course, I focus on the things I should be focusing on, namely not yelling at my family after a Husker loss is probably something I should just check off my list. I don't think it's good for anybody. It's not good for me, definitely, but probably not good for my wife and my children either. So I might want to try and work on that a little bit. What about you guys?
That's a good one, Jeff. That is
a good one. I'm just gonna try to. I've been pretty good about the hat throwing. I think there might have been 1 or 2 this year, but nothing really egregious. I just get really quiet and
I noticed after the Iowa game, Matt, it was just a
and
sad far ride home.
a little
I was
bit like
uncomfortable.
why is this happening to me? Why is this happening to us? I'm not going to let that happen. I'm going to try not to let a Husker loss ruin the better part of an entire weekend for me.
Good for you. I
Yeah.
almost feel like this is
That's
like
good.
a group self-help session here. TJ,
Yeah.
why don't you tell us what your resolution was?
Well, I mean, I definitely threw the hat a few times this year. I can remember the Wisconsin game in particular was a pretty, like, I hurt my shoulder throwing my hat during that one. So, I'll be 42 when the 2024 football season kicks off. I think that's a good age not to throw your hat again,
Yeah.
ever again. Like never, like the threshold should be 0 at that age. Like there's no reason to throw your hat during a college sporting event. I'm sure I won't live up to that high standard I'm setting for myself, but I do want to not throw the hat as much this year. I think I'm better about, like really losing it and yelling and swearing at the TV or punching the couch as much. I might like slap my knee or something like that, but I think I'm a lot better on that front. Just the other one is with you, Matty O, is just and we've been through this a lot recently, unfortunately, so we should know better, but just that feeling after a loss, like someone died,
Yeah.
Yeah.
like someone
Yeah.
died, like someone you love died suddenly and you weren't expecting it, you know. And just like, why, God, how could this possibly happen? How could I possibly be going through this? How will I ever go on? Just trying to not feel like that for 5 or 6 days after a Husker loss.
Yeah.
Let it be known that none of these are attainable by any measure.
No,
So the
of
goal
course
is to
not.
continue doing these things.
No.
Of course not.
But we're going to try. That's what it's all about. And you
We're
know
gonna
what?
try.
We want to reiterate something we've mentioned several times on this podcast. There's no judgment. If
No,
you're
this is
throwing your hat, we are not judging you.
it's a
Reach out
judgment-free
to us.
zone.
This is something we are working on us. But if you're gonna throw the hat or punch the couch, we get it. We've been there.
Common fans.
We've
Common
done
fans.
it.
What
We
is
will
something
do it
that
again.
common fans want to work on? That's what I want to know. Email us, tweet at us. What do you do that you wish that you didn't do? Like has anybody done the thing where something terrible happens during a game and you're just like, oh my God. And then you have to just get up and almost leave the room in disgust.
I'm
you
a
just
room
leave
leaver.
everybody.
I will go
Yeah.
outside for no particular reason. I'll just walk outside, taking a few breaths of fresh air.
Room leaver.
Yeah.
I've been there.
And then
Absolutely.
pathetically come running back in like, oh, the game's back on. Did I miss something?
Try. I'm telling you this right now. Try, and I know you've probably done this, Owens. I've watched many games with you, but like switching where you're sitting or moving to a different room to watch. We were doing really well when I was sitting in this chair in the back dark corner of the room. I'm gonna go sit back there. Oh, it's not working anymore. I gotta get up on the recliner.
I've done that. I've also changed shirts.
Yep.
I've also changed hats.
Been there.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I've done all those things. But you make a good point. You both make good points. One, this is a judgment-free zone. You throw your hat because you care. You punch the couch because you care. No one's going to judge you for caring.
No.
Certainly not on the Common Fan podcast. And I love Geoff's idea. Send us an email, commonfangbr@gmail.com, or tweet at us, or however you want to do it. We'd love to hear either what you're going to work on or just some of your best stories of maybe the most embarrassing thing.
Yeah. What's the worst thing you did
when did you hit
during a Husker loss?
I do.
Hit rock bottom.
I legitimately want to do an entire episode on that, and that's maybe like a July or August thing. But maybe if we get some good entries, some good submissions based on this episode, we can start sort of collecting them and preparing for that future episode, because I love that idea.
And we can keep you anonymous too. Like if it's a real bad one, like urinating in public, or throwing a bar stool through a bar window or something like that, we can, the statute of limitations probably has passed on said offenses, but we can keep you anonymous if it's too embarrassing.
Well, and as we've said many times, we're not journalists, but in this case, if you would like to be kept off the record, we will stick to
We'll
that
honor that request.
journalistic principle. Yeah, and
Yes.
have some integrity there. So that's a good point, Matthew. Well, guys, I'm glad to be back at it. As we said during the Christmas
It
episode,
feels
common
great to be
fans,
back doing
yeah,
this
it's
again.
exciting.
I've missed it.
We're not going anywhere. The goal is 1 to 2 episodes per week during the off season. We've got some guests lined up. We're not quite ready to share who those are, but we're really excited about the guests, and just some other fun episode ideas coming up. So,
And hey, before we close this one out, we need to give a shout out to Nebraska ball, the men's Husker hoops
yes,
team.
Yep.
And we tweeted about this,
Yes,
but
sir.
they are undefeated since Jake Mule joined the pod. And Jake said, what did he say? I believe he said he needed to win out in December.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, the common fans. If you haven't listened to the episode, Husker Radio color man Jake Muehlheisen came on the program to give us a little bit of an update on December 8th. That was right after the Huskers had lost back to back to Creighton, and then they went to Minnesota. They blew a 15-point halftime lead and lost that one. And so we were kind of saying, "Geez, Jake, like it's early in the season, but like, are they playing themselves out of the tournament already?" And Jake said, well, they basically need to win out in December. And they went out and did just that, including wins against Michigan State, who I think is going to turn out to be a pretty dang good team.
Yeah.
Yep. Kansas State as well.
Yeah.
And so they took care of business when they needed to. Is it a coincidence that Jake came on the program and said that, and then the Huskers responded? I don't think so. Do we deserve credit for the Husker basketball performance? Yes, we do.
Yes, we do.
Absolutely.
And so, Jake, we should put it out there. Jake, you're welcome to come back anytime. If you feel like the Huskers need another nudge, especially, hopefully we'll have them on for another update or two anyway this season. But huge shout out to the Husker basketball team. We're recording this on Tuesday, January 2nd. They got a big one against Indiana tomorrow night as well.
Hoosiers are coming to town with the sweetest warm-up pants in all of basketball. Those candy cane stripe.
Those are so cool.
Oh,
I love those.
man.
I wonder if you can buy those like retail. I'd love to have some of those.
I would too. You know what else I like? Not even related to basketball at all, but you ever see those Husker fans with like the red and white overalls? Yes. I don't think I could pull it off, but I've always thought, oh, that's a great outfit. Great game day outfit.
Those are great. Jeff, you were quick with the no there, Jeff, saying that could not pull it off. He said, I don't think I could pull it off. And you immediately said no.
No. I'm not a big fan of them. I'm not gonna lie. I don't really like those. They don't look good to me.
Well, that's not the question. The question is whether or not Matty.
I don't think anybody can pull them off.
I think you look great in them, Matt.
I think I could, especially if I was shirtless underneath, just bare
on your corn cob,
back hair, arm hair.
Why are adults wearing costumes to games? I'm just curious.
Yeah. We're here to give the common fans what they want, and the common fans want to see Matty-O in red and white striped overalls. So put it on the list for 2024. All right, boys. I think we put a stake in the ground here. I think what we've done here is very important for what the Huskers are going to do in 2024. It's going to be up to us. Every fan needs to be on board and rowing in the same direction. But the key takeaway here is, common fans, this is a new hope, a time to hope again, a time to believe again. The Huskers are going to start winning again. 2024 begins a new chapter in Husker football, and we can't wait to be here to help you guys enjoy it. As always, I am TJ Burkle alongside Matty Owens Sr. and Geoffin Lincoln. Thanks for listening. Happy New Year. GBR for life.
Snort the Roulade.